amazing, man. It's all right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Never dull. Never dull. Yeah. All right, why don't we call this work session to order? And if we could call up our Director, Department of Public Works, Mr. Steve Walsh. If the council could turn to page 12, Fiscal Matter 3. Page 12, Fiscal Matter 3. And good afternoon, Mr. Walsh.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. In Fiscal Matter 3, the administration is requesting approval of 4 contracts to provide rental roll-off containers for community cleanups. It's a very popular program, which I know you all know about. The 4 contractors are J&J Trash Removal Incorporated, Northwest Refuse Service, LLC, the Dirt Express Company, and the Good Companies Incorporated. Contracts commenced February 11, 2019, would continue until December 31st, 2019, may not exceed $25,000 unless council approves the contracts. Each contract would continue through February 10th, 2020, and have 4 additional 1-year renewal periods with the option to extend the term an additional 120 days. Compensation to the 4 contractors, combined with the existing 3 contractors that we have, is limited to the amount appropriated for the services during the entire contract term. It's estimated that all the contractors providing the services would be about $210,000 a year, and the estimated for the entire contract term is $1,150,000.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Walsh on Fiscal Matter 3?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Councilman Crandall.
Hi, Mr. Walsh. How are you?
Great.
Good, good. Did the county look into, perhaps, given the popularity of these programs, buying more dumpsters as opposed to renting?
We have not gone there yet. Certainly it involves additional staff and locations for dumpsters. I don't know if you caught in the analysis, but we have done, last year there was 241 cleanup events using 603 containers, and it's certainly a really, really popular program. Expanding that on the county side would be difficult, but certainly something we can look at.
Gotcha.
Next go round.
Yeah, and we just so you know, we try to encourage our community leaders that are setting up these cleanup days or dumpster days, apply well in advance. Again, due to the popularity of the program, and you're kind of in competition to if you have a certain day picked out that's a popular day. The auditor had one question. Are you aware of any time that a community has been turned away? I know communities have had to reschedule their day, but has a community been turned away? And I don't know if you have the auditor's question there in front of you.
I do, and okay. Actually, yeah, a pretty decent number of communities are turned away due to conflict with the date, the money being out of money for the fiscal year, or not having enough dumpsters. So any one of those 3 factors can affect a community cleanup. So we're hoping that with this additional 4 vendors, the dumpster issue will go away for a short period of time. And actually, the budget went up a little bit this fiscal year for the program. So we'll keep better track of the denials so we have better numbers moving forward. But we hope this additional round of contracts will help the program.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your work on this.
Thanks.
Other questions? Councilman Patoka?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Walsh, so thank you. You've been outstanding in terms of requests to the 2nd District for these roll-offs. And even though some of our requests are late, so thank you for that. These are competitively bid?
They are competitively bid.
What about our regular trash service? Is that competitively bid. I never see that come before the council.
So
I've been here 6, 7 months now, but I haven't seen that. I didn't know how trash removal and recycling removal works just on a normal basis in terms of bidding and contracts.
So there's ongoing discussions with the new administration about how the existing trash system works. The vendors that have had currently work with the county have had that relationship for a long time, and the county has not bid those routes recently. So there's ongoing discussion with the new administration about how we want to handle that moving
And I will
forward.
say that in many cases, in going to community meetings, I hear that, and even in experience at my own house, is that the service is not as good as it could be. There's lots of room for improvement. And I thought that competitively bidding, also taking the low bid is fiscally responsible and also could provide for better service. It would just be something to think about.
Administration has it on its radar, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? All right, then why don't we turn to page 16, fiscal matter 4.
Fiscal matter 4, the administration is requesting approval of a contract with Austin Transfer and Processing, LLC, to provide hauling and recycling services for scrap tires, tire parts, et cetera, collected at the county's 3 residential drop-off centers and the county equipment maintenance facility. Contract commenced April 1st, 2019, would continue through June 30th, 2019, may not exceed $25,000 unless the council approves the contract. And if approved, the contract would continue through March 31st, 2020, and have 4 additional single-year renewal periods with the option of extending an additional 90 days. Compensation may not exceed $350,000 for the entire 5-year, 3-month term of the contract.
Questions or comments? Okay, then let's go to page 18, and let's look at our next contract.
That's
EcoFlow.
Fiscal matter 16? Yes. Administration is requesting approval of a contract with EcoFlow Incorporated to provide contaminated gasoline recycling services for the county. And once again, the gasoline is coming from the residential drop-off centers. People bring old and used gas there, and we need to dispose of it. Contract commenced on June 1st, 2019, would continue through August 31st, 2019, may not exceed $25,000 unless council approves it, the contract. If approved, the contract would continue through May 31st of 2020 and have 4 automatic renewal periods with the option to extend for an additional 90 days. Compensation for the total term of the contract, 5 years, 3 months, would be $310,000.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I
Councilman.
have something. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have just a word of thanks for the traffic engineering department under you, Steve. Mr. Karski has worked diligently with my office and with the police department on a parking issue that has developed around a new establishment in our district, and Mr. Karski has been all over it, and again, his responsiveness and communication has been of a great help to us. I hope that we get through this. I don't know if we're done with Mr. Karski yet, but again, he's been of a great help. If you could pass that along, I'd appreciate it.
I certainly will. Thanks for the accolades for him. He does a great job.
All righty.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you.
All right, why don't we call up our Director for Department of Corrections, Ms. Gail Watts. And then if the council could turn to page 5, look at fiscal matter 1, page 5. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Quirk and council members. Fiscal matter 1. The administration is requesting an amendment to one of the county's current contracts with Siemens Industry. The contract, which commenced November the 5th of 2018, provides for annual maintenance and repair services for Siemens light, fire safety, and HVAC pneumatic control systems at 12 county-owned and/or operated facilities. The proposed amendment expands the contract scope to include services at the Baltimore County Detention Center, which Siemens presently provides under a separate contract that is due to expire on August the 3rd of 2019.
Questions or comments for Director Watts? That was easy. All right, why don't we do fiscal matter 2, page 8. Page 8.
Fiscal Matter 2, the administration is requesting approval of a contract with JBI Justice Benefits Incorporated to assist the county in maximizing federal revenue reimbursements for costs associated with the incarceration of certain criminally convicted undocumented individuals. The contract commences July the 1st of this year, continues for 1 year, and will renew automatically for 5 additional 1-year periods with the option to further extend the initial term or any renewal term an additional 90 days. The county will pay the contractor 18% of all revenues received by the county that are a direct result of the contractor's successes in performing the work.
Questions or comments from the council? All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, if we could call up Tammy Price from our 911 Communication Center, and if the council could turn to page 61, Resolution 72-19. Page 61. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman, council members. The administration seeks approval for Resolution 72-19, authorizing the county to accept funds up to $110,190 from the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services Emergency Number System Board for various training programs and public education supplies for the 911 Center. The bulk of these funds, up to $107,690, are for multidiscipline training, including medical, fire, and police protocols, emergency telecommunicator training, quality assurance protocol training, and other initial certification and recertification programs. The remainder of that balance, $2,500, is used for public education materials that we use in local community events and our elementary education program.
Any questions or comments from the council? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, next we could call up Property Management, Deborah Schindel, and then if the council could turn to page 20, Fiscal Matter 5, page 20. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Councilman Chair and council members. I have quite a few to bring up. The first one is the administration is requesting a second amendment to 2 contracts with Excel Tree Expert Company and Forest Valley Tree and Turf, second contractor, for continuing on-call tree trimming, tree removal, and stump removal services throughout the county. The proposed amendment increased the maximum compensation for both contracts combined by $403,985, which took it from $3,040,623 to $3,444,608 for the entire 5-year and 4-month term, including the renewal and extension periods. The contract commenced April 20th of 15. FM6 on this agenda is a 5-year and 3-month contract estimated to total $509,538 with Harford Tree Experts and Landscaping to provide similar services.
And so we were talking about Fiscal Matter 5 and 6 there. Have you had a moment to look at the auditor's questions on 5 and 6?
I have.
Can you address those?
Sure. So one of the questions was that property management's need for additional services, has it changed based on staff responsibility? Actually, it has not. On the Eastern Shore, it started with the Ashbourne tree. Ashbourne trees were being basically killed by an invasive predator that was coming in and literally eats the trees and kills them completely. They have made their way migrated towards Baltimore County, and we are now in that period where all of our Ashbourne trees are being eaten and dead. And once they become dead, there are safety issues, and we have to remove them. I don't have a count, I wish I did, on how many Ashbourne trees that we have. I can tell you we've removed a ton of them. This should decrease, hopefully, once all the Ashbourne trees are gone, but I cannot tell you how many the county has. But that is why there's an increase in service. And then obviously with the storms, the severe storms that come through, obviously take out a higher level of trees, and we try to remove them as quickly as we can.
Councilman Marks?
On that note, I just want to thank you. You have provided exceptional service along with the Public Works Department in the Perry Hall area as we have dealt with a lot of the effects of the storm earlier this month. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Are there any other questions or comments on Fiscal Matter 5 or Fiscal Matter 6 from the Council? Councilman Patoka?
I just want to echo Councilman Marks's comments. My team has informed me that you guys have been extremely responsive, so I just want to say thank you publicly.
You're welcome. Thank you. I will pass that on to them.
Any other questions or comments on Fiscal Matter 5 or 6? All right, well, then let's do Fiscal Matter 7, page 27, Fiscal Matter 7.
The administration is requesting approval of a contract with Barco Enterprises, Inc. to provide duct cleaning and mold remediation services at various county-owned and/or operated facilities as needed. The contract commenced upon council approval, continues for 1 year, and will renew automatically for 4 additional one-year periods with the option to further extend the initial term or any renewal term an additional 120 days. The contract does not specify a maximum compensation for the initial one-year term. Compensation may not exceed the $1,985,801 for the entire 5-year and 4-month term, including the renewals and extension period. We also have a question from the council, which I think was a very good question. What we do is we do evaluate every contract for how much money we spent previously in the last year, and then how much we expect in the future. This contract is very unique because you never know what mold you're going to encounter, or even duct cleaning in 1 year. So it's very hard for us. We may go and do $200,000 for 3 years in a row, and then all of a sudden go into a mass mold issue and really have a much larger expense. So we do try to cover any future expenses that may happen so that we can take care of them immediately.
Any questions or comments from the council? Okay, then why don't we do Fiscal Matters 8 and 9 together, since they tag team together.
Sure. This is the on-call civil engineer design service with Tier 2 and Tier 1. We're asking, the administration is requesting approval of 2 contracts for Tier 2 on civil site design. For the 2 contractors are Garrett Fleming and Site Resource. Each contract commences upon the council's approval, continues for 2 years, and will renew automatically with 2 additional one-year periods. The contract does not specify compensation for the initial 2 term. Compensation for each contractor on this on the Tier 2 may not exceed $3 million for each contractor, of total of $6 million combined for the entire 4-year term. When you talk about the similar service, however, it's a Tier 1. Tier 1s are project sites that are equal or less than 15,000 square feet. There are 2 contractors for that service. It's Brutus and Associates and Clark Zars and Associates. Each contract commences upon, again, the council approval, continues for 2 years and will renew, automatic for 2 years and 1 year contract. In this particular contract, each contractor may not exceed $1 million, which is a total of $2 million on that Tier 1 contract.
Questions or comments from the council? Councilman Patoka?
Question, so this is a lot of money
Mhm.
for design services and on-call services. I was wondering if you could cite an example, or perhaps is Mr. Walsh still with us, could cite an example of what a typical use where we would, or a typical situation where we would call one of these engineering firms on to supplement our in-house engineering services.
Sure. If we're doing a large park or inactive space that we have acquired, such as Rattaball, we used an on-call contractor. If we have an issue in one of our facilities where there's a grading issue, where the water's coming back into the building, we would hire their expertise to determine how we could fix and alleviate the issues where water is coming back into the facility. It's just some of the examples.
So it'd be limited to county-owned property or where we have an engineering issue that we're trying to find a solution to?
That is correct. We don't
Okay.
do anything that's non-county.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
And the question was, we were asked, how has the executive order impact the award of the county professional service contracts to minorities and women-owned businesses and allowed small firms to serve as a prime? I can't speak as a whole because this is really a purchasing initiative through the county executive, but we personally in property management have seen some great opportunities in these types of contracts where there are smaller minority businesses now being able, or union-owned businesses now able to take part in these contracts where they have not been before, and it gives them the opportunity to build up and then move up to the Tier 2. So we are personally seeing that, and you'd have to ask purchasing how much technically, but it's a really good program, we think.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, why don't we turn to page 37, fiscal matter 10, overhead door.
This is overhead door repair and replacement services. The administration is requesting approval for 2 contracts to provide on-call installation, repair, maintenance, and overhead doors in county-owned and operated buildings. The 2 contractors are Baltimore Precision Door and Rolling Doors. Each contractor commenced at the pond of council approval, continues for 1 year, and will renew automatically for 4 additional 1-year periods with the option to further extend the initial term and any renewal terms an additional 120 days. The contract does not specify a maximum compensation for the initial 1-year term. Compensation for both contractors combined may not exceed $730,419 for the entire 5-year and 4-month term, including the renewal and extension period. One of the questions that we got for this from the auditors was, given that the specific project work is not bid and the county relies on the project managers to ensure that the projects and price appropriately, how does the office ensure that individual jobs reflect the best possible price? So when we give the job out to our contractor, the supervisor is responsible for knowing the scope of the job. As we get that invoice in, each vendor has to submit their time, because this is a time and material type of contract. They have to say how much they've spent, how much time they're charging us for, and what materials at cost. and we evaluate it and determine that, yes, that's an appropriate amount of time they should have spent on that repair, and that goes with the invoice as the documentation to justify the invoice.
Any questions or comments from the council? All right, then why don't we turn to page 39, fiscal matter 11. Lighting maintenance.
Somehow I lost my lighting maintenance. I'm sorry, hold on.
It's our page 39. Yours pages might be different.
They are. I think I messed them up. Maybe I put them.
It's athletic field, parking lot, and exterior lighting maintenance and repair.
Property Management is requesting approval for the contract of Lighting Maintenance, Inc. for athletic fields, parking lots, and exterior parking and repair services at various locations throughout Baltimore County on an as-needed basis. This agreement shall be effective on April the 18th and will end August the 31st unless the county approves this agreement. In this event, the county council approves this agreement, the term and agreement shall continue through April 17th of 2020, so we had to extend it. At this time, the county may exercise its option to renew this agreement for 4 one-year renewals. Under this agreement, we have a $25,000 use unless the county council approves this agreement in the terms where we can exceed, and the contractor sum will not exceed $1,890,654.48 during the terms of this agreement, including the renewals.
And I know the auditor had a question on this as well.
And the question from the council is, please explain the rationale for the approach to determine the funding source of a maintenance and repair work order. So in the statement that we provided, we said typically what happens is any lighting that is under $5,000 gets charged against an operating budget. Anything over $5,000 typically is going against the capital funding. What we do is we have conversation with OBF to discuss with them if it's going to be, at where they would like us to take the money, if it needs to come out of capital. So it's determined with OBF where the funding will come out. Traditionally, anything over $5,000 is their threshold that they would like to take out of capital. So we work with them.
Any questions or comments from the council? All righty, I think we are good for the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schindel. All right, why don't we next call up our Dr. Gregory Branch, Director of Department of Health and Human Services. If council could turn to page 43, fiscal matter 12. And good afternoon, Dr. Branch.
Good afternoon, Council Chair, and to all the council members. We have the administration is requesting to enter into a contract with the Associate Catholic Charities to provide family and kinship navigation services to families and children who are impacted by parental incarceration and or the foster care system, or they could be disconnected youth, and we define disconnected youth as children between the ages of 16 and 24 who are not working or in school. They will provide family outreach, screening and assessments, information and referrals, and family support, and service evaluations. The funding for this contract will come from the state, the Maryland Governor's Office for Children at $140,000, and the Maryland Department of Human Services at $21,000. And the contract will serve approximately 200 families.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Branch on fiscal matter 12? All right, why don't we do fiscal matter 13, page 47?
Okay. The administration is seeking approval to a service agreement with Gardenzia to operate an inpatient residential substance use disorder program in the Richards Building in Owens Mills. We'll provide initially 30 beds for male and female adults, and in 2020, we will increase that to approximately 70 to 80 beds. The facility will operate 24 hours a day, 365 days in a year. The facility is open to individuals with or without insurance, and the cost of the treatment would be nothing to the recipients.
And I know the auditor had one question on this, or two questions.
Okay, one question we have here is the county receives only one proposal in response to solicitation. Does the department have any theories as to why this was the case? I really don't. If I had to fathom a guess, it would possibly be because whoever was to take this contract would have to have enough capital money to be able to start up with hiring all those staff and equipment and stuff. And so I don't think that many not-for-profits out there or companies who are doing substance use disorder may not have that much capital. The next would be, what would a person with insurance similar to county employees' retiree health insurance plans pay per day at this facility? So the individual person pays nothing. What the insurance actually pays, I don't know. And the reason why is because the contract between the provider and the insurance is not public. Right? So an insurance company can pay me as a physician who's in Baltimore City or Baltimore County a certain rate and pay another provider in Garrett County a different rate. We as the providers can't have that conversation.
Questions or comments? Councilman Patuka?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dr. Branch. It's my understanding that patients that would go to this center would be referred to by a hospital, that they might be having a psychotic or overdose event at a hospital. Is that correct? Or
So this is going to be for referrals can be from our peer recovery specialist. It could be from a hospital emergency room. It could be from a physician's office. It could be a person who's referring themselves there. So in essence, the person will be evaluated prior to going there if necessary, because we got to make sure that that is the level of care that that person would need.
Mm-hmm. Is it a typical Gaudenza model where the four-step model that I understand Gaudenza utilizes is crisis is where the patient ends up at the first step, then goes through detox, 28-day program, and then in some cases Gaudenza implements a job readiness program to get a person not just out of the crisis they're in, but then into a better shape in terms of job readiness.
Right. So it will be the latter portion of that, because the crisis portion, we will not have those type of crisis detox beds here.
I see.
So what would happen is the fact that a person needs crisis or detox, it would be in a crisis or detox bed somewhere else.
I see.
And then that person could then step down into our program and then have those things that you talked about.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Bevins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, but I think you just answered the question that I wanted to know. I wanted to know if this was a detox facility and treatment or both.
At this particular time, it's going to be a treatment facility, which we call 3.5 and 3.7. I'm sorry, 3.3 and 3.5. And that's going to be an inpatient treatment facility where they're going to be providing them with medications, but also all those other services as they try to get themselves off of the drugs. But it's not the detox when a person is actually in crisis itself.
Are any of those medications Suboxone or methadone?
It will be the Suboxone medications. What we would then do is we could actually have the person go into and start to participate in a methadone program also. so then they would actually be referring them out to their own communities.
Thank you.
Are there other, Councilman
Yeah,
Jones?
Yes,
Or
Mr.
Councilman
Chair.
Crandall?
Yeah, thank you. Is this, this facility, is it opioid specific, or is it for alcohol and other addictions as well?
This one particularly now, what we're starting is opioid specific.
Opioid, okay. And even though there's no direct cost to the county, it's at a county facility, it is a contract with the county, are there mechanisms in place where we can measure the success of this particular contract?
There are specific measurements that we have in the agreement that they have to follow, and then the Department of Health and Human Services will actually be following that with them, and to ensure that they are providing excellent care.
Okay, so there are reporting requirements
Yes,
and
definitely.
things that your department will be monitoring?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments from the council? Councilman Patoka?
Dr. Branch, is this on the former Rosewood campus?
Yes.
Are there significant buffers from the facility to Torah Institute, which is right next door? And other activities in the Rosewood vicinity?
I'm not too sure what you mean by specific buffers.
Landscape buffers, just some level of separation.
Where it's located, it is definitely separated and kind of by itself, but I could not say that there were landscape buffers, meaning that there was hills or mountains or major trees or anything like that is going to do that. What happens is the fact that in the program itself, there are a lot of rules and regulations that Gaudenzi will have instituted as it relates to the people who are participating in the program.
Just want to get a sense of the amount of traffic, because my initial thoughts on this were that it would be a referral from a provider, like that's why my initial questions were hospital, but so you can't just walk into the site.
Basically, you're not going to really walk in. What's going to happen is the fact that our peer recovery specialist would actually be bringing you there. Okay, and this is not a facility where people are going to have visitors. So we're not going to have that.
The family won't be coming in?
We don't have all that kind of traffic there at all. What will happen is the fact that if you are referred by a hospital or if you're referred by the crisis center, they call our peer recovery specialist who actually goes and gets the person and brings them to the program itself.
And would the person then be a 28-day resident at the facility?
No, it could actually be 70 to 86 days. I mean, it's
Say that again, I'm sorry.
70 to 86 days
Oh,
is the
so
average
it's longer
day. It's
term.
much longer than 28 days.
With that visitors, and how many staff members would be there?
Okay, the specifics of that I don't have in front of me because that's something that Gaudenzi is the expert on that. However, we have actually walked through all of their staffing.
So I'm familiar with Gaudenzi, and I think they do what they do extremely well. But I just wanted to have some level of assurance that the impact to the surrounding community is negligible. And so I'd be interested in having a better sense of the amount of traffic. And I'm not in no way saying that we don't need to address this very significant issue head on. But I do have some obligation to the community. I do have a lot of obligation to the community to ensure that there's minimal amount of impact to the community while addressing this very important issue.
One of the things I think is extraordinarily important for us to remember is the fact that we have a addiction and opioid problem within our communities.
No question.
It's in our front doors, it's in our back doors, and it's now in our homes. So as long as we don't have these treatment facilities, we have an issue in our community. We have a lot of things going on in our community that we don't want. And so I do believe that this is one of the solutions that we can have in order to make our communities safe and to make the people in the community feel safe, because I have a treatment program for someone who is addicted.
But this would be, so it's located in the 2nd District, but would be a county-wide facility?
Oh, it's a county-wide facility. It's a statewide facility. You don't have to be a Baltimore County resident to be in this facility.
I see. But I would, if it's possible to get numbers on the number of people that work there, what the shifts are, how many clinicians there are, what the non-clinical staff, it would be, it'd be good to know that. I know that this is something, when I'm at community meetings, I'm going to get these questions and would like to, I mean, believe me, I'm not ducking this issue. I think it's tragic what's happened with the opioid epidemic. But I would like to be able to answer questions about impact to this specific area.
Okay, we'll forward the specifics regarding the staffing.
Thank you.
Other questions from the council on this fiscal matter? Is everybody good? Well, we do have one public speaker, and it's Patricia Meduski. Matuszewski. Yeah, if you'd like to come on up, and Dr. Branch will. Yeah, and then we have up to 3 minutes to speak on this issue, and then we'll have Dr. Branch, right?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Couch?
Yeah, Dr. Branch, Mrs. Matuszewski has a number of questions that she had sent to my office. Would you be able to meet with her after the meeting to address her questions? Yeah, okay, and Ryan, if you'd go up.
Okay, you just want to do that then?
No, if you want to, go ahead.
Okay, so, good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon.
Members of the council. My name is Patricia Matuszewski. I am a Baltimore County resident. I am a registered nurse, and I'm a family advocate for individuals who suffer with co-occurring substance use and mental disorders. While families are so appreciative of what Baltimore County is doing, Dr. Branch, and providing more treatment services to address this disease, we're also taxpayers, and we would hope that any of the expenses that were incurred would provide quality, good outcomes, and prevent recidivism. And so I was not able, or I mean, I don't even know if it was available to look at the RFP when it went out for the contract. But upon reading the administration's request for approval, it stated some of the things that the contract had said. So the contract did state that the treatment program will provide services for those individuals upon assessment that they meet the criteria, the ASAM level 3.3 and 3.5. Just information that we'd like to know is that how many 3.3s and 3.5s, how many other of these levels of care do we have in Baltimore County? One of the things that we've been having trouble finding out is what is the service capacity? How do we know what we need if we don't know what we have? So what is it that we have in Baltimore County? What are all the services, the service capacity? Doesn't sound like we have a lot of 3.3s and 3.5s. But again, we don't want to overspend if we don't have to. So the contract also indicated that services will be provided only to adults 18 years of age and older, even though ASAM 3.5 includes clinically managed medium-intensity residential services for adolescents. So will there be any adolescents that can take
Not in this building, because I cannot design a program that I would have adults and children in the same space. So there will be other programs like we do now that we refer our adolescents to.
Okay, because it does include, when they're saying 3.5, it does include adolescents. And we really have a need for this. There are a lot of adolescents that don't have access to care. These two ASAM levels require treatment of co-occurring substance use and mental disorders. We know from national data that 60 to 70% of this population with a substance use disorder also has a co-occurring mental illness, and vice versa. Additionally, those people that are in the criminal justice system, their prevalence is much higher. So to prevent no wrongdoer, you want to be designing your system or your treatment program to be able to accept people with more complex situations. So their complexity is higher, the cost is higher. So if you're set up to be able to treat this type of population, then you have anybody could come in. If they just have addiction only, they'd be fine, or mental health only.
And if I could ask you to conclude your remarks, but we may have questions as well.
I'm basically going to give
You're going to set up a
Ryan the
meeting with
list
Dr. Branch?
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, so you want me to just...
If you just have any concluding remarks, but I know Councilman Katz is going to help make sure your questions are asked specifically with Dr. Branch as well.
Right. Just that, it would be nice to know what criteria the program meets to be deemed dual diagnosis capable, which it states in the contract. We just can't say we're co-occurring capable. We need to really have some criteria to know that that's available. And then what are the competencies of the staff? So I will speak to him offline with all the rest of the questions.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming in. Is any questions from the council?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep, his what?
American Pat.
It's American
There's a
Pat.
relation to American Joe.
His wife.
There we go. All right, Dr. Branch, you're back up, and if the council could turn to page 51, fiscal matter 14.
The administration is requesting a second amendment to the contract with Community Solutions to provide multi-systemic therapy to youth and young adults who are at risk for out-of-home placement and the Department of Juvenile Services. They provide intensive family and community evidence-based treatment programs designed to make positive changes for youth at school, in the home, in the community, and with their peer relations. The funding is $749,000 from the state and $185,000 from the feds. And the contract will serve about 75 individuals.
And are there any questions or comments from the council on fiscal matter 14? Okay, why don't we do page 55, fiscal matter 15.
Abilities Network. The administration is requesting to enter into a contract with the Abilities Network for our Healthy Families Home Visiting Program. They are providing evidence-based home visiting program that provides prenatal care, breastfeeding education, parental skills, and prevention of low birth weight infants, and decreased infant mortality and child maltreatment. The families are followed from pre-birth until the child is in kindergarten. The funding for the program is $1.1 million, which is truly representative of the federal, state, and local partnership. The county provides $350,000, the state $423,000, and the feds $327,000. Initially, with our program, the federal and state put grant money in that covered about 2/3 of the county, and then the county put in the remainder to cover the whole county. Department, we approve the contractors' budgets annually, and we review and monitor their expenditures monthly. The contract will serve approximately 180 families around Baltimore County annually.
Dr. Branch, we had a couple auditor questions as well.
How the county program has changed and how it's changed is the fact that now it's throughout the entire county, now that the county has put money into the program. How does the state and our county programs guidelines ensure the hourly compensation rates provided to the contract are reasonable? That's why we approve their contract budget annually, and then we review them and monitor everything on a monthly basis. How does the county utilize the contract's performance reporting requirements to ensure the effectiveness of use of the taxpayer dollars? So there are standards by which we have to follow from the state, and so therefore we're able to follow those standards as we monitor them on a monthly basis.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Branch? Is everybody good? All righty. Thank you, Dr. Branch.
Thank you.
All righty. Why don't we, if the council could actually turn to the addendum, and that's fiscal matter 18, and we'll call on our county administrative officer, Ms. Stacy Rogers.
Good afternoon, Chairman Quirk and members of the council. On behalf of the county executive, I'm requesting your approval of our countywide strategic planning engagement initiative to be facilitated by a third-party contractor, The Clearing, in the amount of $86,000. In my role as CAO, one of the priorities for which I'm responsible is for the development and implementation of a countywide strategic plan. This will be the first strategic plan that the county has endeavored. With this charge, the county executive and I recognize the need for input from our leaders across the government and from you. We all share the same vision to ensure our work is aligned to a broader vision for the county. We can meet this goal by ensuring that we have the best resources, policies, and practices in place that will influence how we govern and work together. Our work together with the assistance of The Clearing will enable us to develop a roadmap to guide us. A strategic plan will also help us better align our resources through the budgeting process and hold ourselves accountable. For many years, The Clearing has been an expert in change management and organizational culture, leadership development, and team effectiveness and strategic communications. As a Maryland Incorporated small business consultancy, The Clearing, Inc. has had much success working with industries including public sector, federal, state, and local governments. Our timeline for initiating our strategic alignment session is July, to enable us to launch our plan of activities by the middle of FY 2020. This will allow us also to begin our tracking of performance against our priorities by the beginning of the second quarter of the fiscal year, October. We request your approval of the contract, and at some point we'd like to talk further about your participation, representatives participating with us. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about this initiative and our contract.
Does any of the council members have any questions or any comments on this fiscal matter? Councilman Jones?
So I was reading the executive summary, and I looked at did my little Google search. So the company will be helping us to develop a strategic plan?
Yes, helping us to set our priorities as well as our activities, and aligning that for a plan, a roadmap and a plan that we can use. It's a multi-year plan, which many jurisdictions and federal agencies and other entities have to guide them.
Okay, and they'll do this by interviewing stakeholders in the government?
They do interviews of staff. They would interview members of the council, education will participate, libraries, community college, and then they use that input to have an actual facilitated discussion, a very interactive, day-long discussion that helps us identify collectively our goals. So it's not just through interview, it's through active participation. I've participated in every jurisdiction or agency I've been in. I've been assigned, the responsibility of developing the high-level strategic plan with associated goals and outcomes and metrics. So it's actually a interactive session with a group of people in a room working together.
I guess that's where I had the question. I have the utmost respect in you and your abilities. And I was just curious what the clearing, what would they bring to the table?
Well, I'll say it this way. It's often difficult to try to plan from within because when you're close to it, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. But with a neutral facilitator, they can help first of all, they can ask the questions that a lot of us wouldn't ask or even know to ask. Expert facilitators in the strategic planning world, and they help you to focus as well because you end out way out here, but they help to bring that in under themes and what the group in the room is saying is a general consensus. That's hard to do when you do it yourself.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the council? Everybody good?
Well, I look forward to working with you all. It's something that we will use throughout the administration to guide us.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rogers.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry if I may.
Sure, Councilman Crandall?
Mr. Rogers, do we know what experience the clearing has with working with municipalities or with the public sector?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The clearing has more than 10 years of work at the federal, the state, and local level. Have had many years of experience interfacing with them. We were able to request them through the competitive public procurement intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement, which is a pre-bid type of agreement that highly successful entities pre-bid their qualifications. The other thing that I can say with respect of looking at their portfolio, we're happy to give you their portfolio of clients. In many instances, work that they have done has definitely lasted over the years, even the change in administration. I know that the Maryland State Department of Transportation used them to do their long-term vision planning. Actually, if you enter the Department of Transportation, their visual that was a result, because they do visual documentation, State Department of Transportation actually used that as their icon. For me, some work at Social Security. They're actually still at Social Security working on their IT plan. They work with a lot of work in the space with the Department of Defense. So I'm happy to provide you with their portfolio of clients that they've worked with.
Okay, thank you.
Council?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to be brief, only because I just recently had to deal with it. Last year, we approved a contract for $75,000 over in economic development to do a study for our tourism.
Right.
And we got that study back, and we didn't see it right away, but now we've seen it. They produced it, and it was the worst study that I've ever seen. It was the worst taxpayer money that could ever been spent. They left out 3/4 of the businesses on the waterfront and didn't mention any of the businesses on the waterfront, didn't actually talk to anybody, and now the county is supposed to take this study and figure out how to promote Baltimore County as far as tourism and the waterfront was left totally behind because they did not do a good job. So that's kind of what we're thinking about. Like, we want them to be very reputable, and if this money's spent, that we make sure that we get a good outcome, because we did not get
Sure.
one with the tourism study.
Well, I could speak firsthand for the work of the clearing. I have a number of deliverables that I'm happy to share in my work. I've never been disappointed. I also, again, look at the sustainability of organizations when they're doing work. You know, if they complete a project and then another entity within the organization or another agency says, oh, I'm going to contract with them, they have a stellar reputation. But I'm happy to share with you deliverables that map out,
Thank you.
map out a
We'd appreciate-
long-term plan.
We'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Other, Councilman Patoka?
Ms. Rogers, I just want to say that I appreciate your perspective of wanting to see the world in a different view. I mean, we make choices as on the executive side and on the legislative side, and we can choose to do things that we've done the same way for the past 20 years and not issue contracts for waste removal. We could just continue on this course of, well, we've been doing it this way for a long, long time. Let's continue to do it. And so I admire you for making a choice, and the executive department for making a choice to do things differently, to look at the world as we are in the year 2020. We're entering 2020, 2019 to 2020, and I think that we have to approach it that we're in a new we're entering a new period in Baltimore County government. I just want to thank you for taking a chance to make positive change.
Thank you, Councilman. It's a collective effort.
All righty. Well, thank you, Ms. Rogers. And now why don't we turn to page 59, Fiscal Matter 17, and we'll turn it over to our County Auditor, Ms. Lauren Smuckinson.
Good afternoon. Fiscal Matter 17 is a contract with Sage Policy Group, Inc. to provide economic analysis, personal income forecasting, and discussion facilitation services for the Council's Spending Affordability Committee and its Economic Advisory Committee. The contract commences July 1st, 2019, and continues through June 30th, 2023. Compensation is limited to $1,600 per quarter and may not exceed $25,600 for the entire 4-year term. The contractor provides quarterly economic reports for the Council's Spending Affordability Committee, which establishes a spending guideline. The reports include estimates and forecasts of U.S., state, and county personal income, employment, and population data. The contractor attends 2 to 4 SAC meetings to present this economic analysis and personal income forecasting. The contractor also provides economic briefing and discussion facilitation services for the Economic Advisory Committee, which was established to provide practical assistance in advising the SAC. This committee meets quarterly to discuss the state of the local economy and consists of 9 members, including those who have expertise in the field of economics.
And any questions or comments from the council for Ms. Smuckinson? And any questions or comments from the council? We do have one public speaker, but I want to make sure everybody's good. All right, why don't we call up our one public speaker, Ms. Peta Richkis. And Peta, if you would like to come up, you have up to 3 minutes to speak. And good afternoon.
Chairman Quirk, council members, my name is Peter Richkis, and I live in Towson. First, let me say I don't envy you. You're having to read all of the information that comes to you. This agenda package alone is 75 pages. Your auditors have done yeoman's work preparing fiscal notes for this month's contract items. But based on the discussion or lack of discussion, I worry that some of the information they are providing may go unnoticed. As a former primary procurement officer for the state of Maryland, I know that the Board of Public Works would have many serious questions about an agenda that includes what appears to be 6 retroactive approval requests out of 18 and 2 red flags about potential violations of county charter. But secondly and specifically, I have concerns about the proposed renewal of the county's consultant contract with Sage Policy Group. Mr. Anirban Basu, Chairman and CEO of Sage Policy Group, has served as Chairman of the Economic Advisory Council since 2002 and provided economic analysis and personal income forecasting services for the Spending Affordability Committee since 2010. That's a long time. No doubt his work with SAC and the Advisory Committee is and has been very much appreciated. In lieu of a contract, perhaps Mr. Basu and the other citizen members of these committees should be compensated for participation instead. But in the run-up to last month's council vote, in 3 Center Maryland videos against the modest revenue enhancements recently approved by the council, I believe that Mr. Basu crossed the line from independent consultant to lobbyist. In my view, his heavily promoted public opposition was a violation of his fiduciary responsibility to the county. It's one thing to manage potential conflicts of interest when you provide economic analysis for energy suppliers, law firms, real estate developers, for Associated Builders and Contractors, the Construction Financial Management Association, Maryland Realtors, and Markham Construction Industry Group. But when Mr. Basu acts as a public advocate against the county's best efforts to achieve fiscal sustainability, he undermines the appearance of objectivity that is necessary for credibility, and he raises the question of conflict of interest. So yes, I think it's fair to ask, Mr. Basu, having been economic advisor to the council all these years of declining fiscal sustainability, Sage Policy Group having been awarded hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracts paid for by county taxpayer dollars, and having many clients whose interests may not always align with the county's, why wouldn't the county seek a new outside advisor for independent economic analysis? From a public procurement perspective, I respectfully suggest that now would be a good time for the county to open the process for a new economic analyst. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richkes. Any questions or comments from the council? Councilman Marks?
I just want to thank you for your comments, and I want to assure you that I think there have been a number of conversations about the subjects you raised. It is not a part of this issue because we're not talking about this issue, but I have concerns with the way Mr. Basu has interacted with people in other public settings for the school system. I have seen him to be highly professional here for this contract, but those other interactions do give me some alarm. But I want to thank you for raising the issues you did today.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Councilman Jones?
Yes, Ms. Peter, I want to thank you so much for your comments. I did have one question because, of course, Mr. Basu is not here to defend himself, but I guess my question was, if we are undertaking a subject or idea or revenue enhancement, as you say, and we do not hire him to give us advice on this particular issue, and someone else does, should we have that information or not?
I don't know how to answer your specific question, Councilman, but I do know that in many cases, professional services are provided by organizations and individuals who work for multiple clients, and they understand the fiduciary responsibility that they have to each of them, and much like a law firm, they make sure that there are no conflicts of interest. When a firm or an individual goes from being a consultant, working for you in this case, to an advocate working against you, in my view, then perhaps Mr. Basu should be registering as a lobbyist.
Well, I guess that's, in your statement, it seems to me that and I'm going to bring this to an end. I don't want to get into a big debate. But number one, you said he was acting as a lobbyist, when in fact, if somebody hired him to research something and he came forward and told us what he thought, that doesn't necessarily make him a lobbyist.
Of course not.
That,
And
that
may
says that he's bringing forth information. And in terms of working against our interests here, the 7 of us, do our very best to collect as much information as we possibly can so that we can make the very best decisions possible. So if somebody comes in and says something contrary to my point of view or contrary to the administration point of view, that's information that we take in and we process that. It doesn't mean that because we pay that person as a firefighter that they shouldn't come forward with a different point of view when that information can be helpful. So I guess we want to be careful that we don't call him a lobbyist because somebody else hired him and then he came forward with the information.
And that is not at all what I was referring to. Perhaps you did not see the 3 videos that were highly promoted in the run-up to your last vote on these revenue enhancements. But he was speaking out against the proposed impact fees and phone fee and. And so he wasn't just giving advice. He was advocating in video on Facebook and wherever else. And I found that offensive. So it's not his advice. Clearly, he's respected for his advice. But I think, at least in this case, and I believe there may be others, I don't know, that it was inappropriate for him to do that. Though that is the action of a lobbyist, not a consultant.
Even if he believed what he was saying to be true. Doesn't matter.
I wouldn't expect that he didn't believe that. So then that begs the question, how is his opinion influencing his advice and consultancy to the council and to the county?
Okay, thank you.
This particular contract is a bargain, so I have no objection to its pricing, especially when you compare it to the hundreds of thousands of dollars that SAGE Policy is under contract for with our school system. So that's not at all an objection.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Patoka?
Thank you, Ms. Riskus. And this kind of relates back to the issue that Ms. Rogers brought up about having a new lens on how we see the world. So, for example, you're a procurement expert, and you know that there are many people that can do this kind of work. And so I would say that, I think Anibon, Mr. Basu, is really, really smart. He hails from the 2nd District, so I always have to give a special shout-out to residents of the 2nd District. But there's organizations like the Jacob France Institute that can do this kind of work, and I think moving forward, we should consider that in the world of Baltimore County, where we have been doing things very similarly for the past 20 years, that we can broaden our horizons, and I'm hoping the clearings help us do that, where we look at different professionals. In fact, I would even say that there are even more law firms out there that we can engage in terms of who we do business with. For some reason, we've gotten into this way that there's only 3 or 4 law firms or one economic analyst or 3 people that can pick up trash. But we need to really think about the entire economy and people that do these kind of jobs. And that's why we have procurement officers, because they know that there are large numbers of professionals that can do this kind of work. So thank you for bringing this up. It's something. Ms. Rogers, I would recommend that when the clearings, if they come on board, to speak to Ms. Riskus and use her expertise as part of that outreach program.
Thank you very much. Many years ago, if memory serves, it was actually Towson University who did the economic
That's right.
analysis work for Baltimore County. I can speak proudly of my alma mater, the University of Baltimore.
Oh, no.
They can also perform this kind of analysis. And there are many in the private sector that can as well as an alternative.
Thank you.
And that doesn't mean that Mr. Basu's experience with the county need be lost,
Correct.
because he presumably would continue to be a chair of the advisory council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Katz?
Yeah, I want to thank you as well, and just have what he was doing was lobbying. There's no question about it, and there are requirements that he register, and
He's not registered.
He's not.
Not as at the list I saw
How recent?
this week. Maybe Friday.
Thank you.
Councilman Jones?
Yes, one more question, Ms. Peter.
Sure.
In the beginning of your comment, you said that there were a couple of things we did today, two of which that raised red flags. I was curious if you could identify what things you were talking about.
Yes. Shall I send it on to your office, or shall I?
Oh, just give me the topics right now.
Okay. One of them was, nope, I left my notes. One of them had to do with, one of them had to do with a potential violation of the county charter because of one of the contracts that was initiated prematurely, in my view. And so you were being asked to give retroactive approval to a contract. And the county charter stipulates that anything above $25,000 has to have approval first. And the notation from the auditors indicated that that $25,000 limit had been exceeded. And that's why they raised a flag in their notes that it could be a charter violation. The second one was worded differently. I believe the statement was, we cannot provide information about the amount of money spent under this premature contract before council approval. And that raised a red flag for me, because you have a financial system on all of the other 18 matters on the agenda. You could provide the dollars and cents of it all, what contracts companies might have had prior to the one that was being asked for approval today. And so that was the second one. I can tell you before I leave, I don't have my notes from going over the 75 pages in front of me, but it's right at the bench.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
Other questions or comments from the council?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Couch?
Yeah, I would think, since we have a new administration, it's what, January, February, March, April, May, 6 months, I would imagine that the 25,000 that was exceeded probably wasn't something that the administration caught right away, and that's maybe why we're in this situation with a brand new administration. Yeah, and I'm sure their goal would be never to let this happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Councilman Marks?
I think the one contract's the Tier 1 buildings contract. It might be the Tier 1 buildings contract you're referring to.
The engineering.
Yeah, the engineering contract, yeah. Okay, thank you.
All righty. Well, why don't we move to page 3, Bill 31-19, Councilwoman Bevins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bill 3119, this bill would simply allow a car wash to be permitted in an ML zone by special exception if that property already had an underlining AS designation. The bill just makes for better zoning, makes the definition clearer, And this would also, this allows like what we know as a Jiffy Lube, like business, but it would be called Grease Monkey, to revitalize a property on Pulaski Highway by allowing a car wash and a 3-bay quick lube oil change building that will also create jobs and improve the area with a new facility rather than the old motel that's currently there.
Any questions or comments for Councilwoman Bevins? All right, we do have two public speakers. First public speaker, Mr. David Karzeski, followed by Thomas Diabaco. Good afternoon, Mr. Karzeski.
Good evening. Good afternoon, Chairman Quirk and members of the council. I'm David Karzeski with Venable LLP, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this piece of legislation. And I'm here to speak on Bill number 3119 regarding car washes. As Councilwoman Bevins already alluded to, the purpose of the legislation is to clarify that a car wash is allowed in the ML zone by special exception, provided that it has an overlay district. She mentioned the AS, but there are a number of overlay districts that are listed in Section 419. Those are the special regulations for car washes in the zoning regulations today. Under 419, car washes are allowed with 4 overlay districts. Those are the CR, that's a commercial rural district, that's outside of the URDL. There's a CCC, that's a community commercial core. There's an automotive service and an industrial major. In my experience, it's the AS and the IM districts that would be associated with an ML zone. A CR district is outside the URDL, and a CC district is commonly associated with the business zone classifications of the county. A car wash in the ML zone would still be subject to all of the site plan requirements, all of the stacking and parking space requirements, all the setback, and all the design standards that are now in place in the county code that apply to car washes. The legislation is simply a clarification to make the ML zone consistent with what already exists in Section 419. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Karzeski. Our next speaker, Thomas Diabaco. Good afternoon.
Hi, how are you? Yeah, I just had more of a question rather than taking a position either way. We're just wondering where the property was on. Was
I'm
it
sorry,
on?
what did you say?
Just had a question of where, you know, you had mentioned that the property was with respect to on
The
Route 40.
Star Motel is currently in that location on Pulaski Highway, one of the older motels that the family has owned for many, many years, and they would like to raise that motel and have this Grease Monkey job there. And as you know, that track of 40, you know, definitely needs some rehabbing, and we're trying to revitalize that corridor and create some jobs. And this would be a you know, by allowing this legislation, we would have a new business on Route 40, and I think it's one that, you know, would be patronized by, you know, all the local folks.
Okay, that was my only question. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
It's easy. Councilman Cash?
Yeah, Grease Monkey is a car wash?
No, it's like a Jiffy Lube, but they also have a car wash.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's one-stop shop.
All righty. Okay, why don't we move forward? Everybody's good? Okay, why don't we now do page 64, Resolution 73-19. Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. You may recall that we had an issue about 2 months ago dealing with the conversion of commercial space in a high-rise dormitory into residential unit, high-rise building into residential units such as dormitories. At the time, I said I wanted the planning board to look at this topic, to survey other jurisdictions and see how they dealt with this issue. This resolution simply requires the planning board to survey other jurisdictions and complete a report by November 1st, which is well ahead of their most intensive work with the CZMP.
Any questions or comments for Councilman Marks on this? Everybody's good? All right, why don't we do Resolution 74-19, Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. Resolution 7419 requests the Baltimore County Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee to examine the feasibility of expanding the bicycle parking requirements to other areas inside the urban-rural demarcation line. Right now, there's only a few areas within the URDL where bike parking is required. One example is downtown Towson. This simply asks the committee to evaluate that and to make recommendations. There's no requirements on us. We would simply be getting a report on that.
Any questions or comments for Councilman Marks on this? I know we do have one public speaker, Mr. Mike Pierce, if you'd like to come on up. And up to 3 minutes to speak. And Mr. Pierce, somebody we know very well. It's good to see you. Good afternoon. That's all right. That's all right. Appreciate your constituent service, or citizen service, actually.
Yes, Chairman and County Council, I support this resolution. I'm really glad that you've going to a citizen commission to ask for some suggestions or input. I urge you to do that more often, especially with the planning board for zoning regulation changes. Make you aware that there was a zoning hearing just a couple weeks ago in which the petitioner asked for variance for 6 bicycle parking spaces in lieu of the required 34. Now, that was a mistake because it was in Pikesville where the regulation doesn't exist, so it was dropped, but it just shows you that that's what developers will do. So I suggest that you explicitly ask the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee to include that in their considerations as what kind of criteria or limits should be placed on the ALJ's ability to grant variances for this. As Brian McIntyre used to say, they hand out variances like candy, and they could completely gut the purpose of what you're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Any other questions or comments? I mean, one thing I'm hearing from the bicycle community is they're very excited with the new county executive and a real new fresh look and a committed look and consideration for this issue. So, and I was talking to my good friend Nate Evans today, and I mean, Nate has such a wonderful vision on where this county can head toward as well. So hopefully we can continue to seek out advice from Nate on this issue as well, who's a great guy. But thank you for coming and appreciate it. All righty. And then last but not least, we do have Mr. Ed Blades. So if the council could, I guess this miscellaneous business 10, it's Mr. Ed Blades for nomination for Director of Office of Budget and Finance. And I think this might be an easy one, but Mr. Blades, if you wanted to say a couple words, I mean, I feel like we all are very strongly supportive of you, but...
Well, I'm back.
Ed who?
Round 2. Hopefully it'll be enjoyable like the last time. I appreciated all your kind words, and hopefully over the past few weeks I haven't deteriorated any relationships, but only enhanced them. And I would like to continue working with all of you, so thank you.
Any questions or comments from the council for Mr. Blades? Councilman Jones?
Mr. Blades, I guess I want to let you know that before we didn't know you were going to get the job. That's why we were so nice to you. But now that you're here, let me just say it's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you so much.
I saw it on Facebook, so it must be true.
Other questions or comments from the council for Mr. Blades' nomination? Councilwoman Bevitz?
I would just like to say I've known Mr. Blades since 2004, and he's quite the company man, and he really deserves to be sitting there. He's worked very hard, and under the previous administration, and I wish you a lot of luck, and I look forward to continuing to work with you, Ed. You do a fantastic job.
Any other thoughts for Councilman Patoka?
Sure. Mr. Blades, I just want to congratulate you. I've been working with you since 1996, believe it or not, in 2 different tours with Baltimore County. So congratulations. I think you'll do a great job. Can I ask you one technical question? So if an agency at the end of the fiscal year has a surplus or has money funding remaining, and is there any do you have any thresholds of how that year-end money is spent, or is that up to the agency?
Well, as you know, we're relying on a fund balance of 10%.
Fund balance of
So we're
10%?
looking at, when you look at Exhibit H in the budget documents, we're looking at hitting a certain dollar amount coming back from all the departments, but we rely on the management within the department to determine those expenditures.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Blades, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilman Marks?
I'll echo what my colleague said and more. This administration has been far more transparent, much more easier to work with. Road resurfacing is one area where I think we're all getting answers we may not have gotten it before. You're going to be the custodian of a lot of those records and a lot of that information. And I just wanted to tell you, I think we're off to a very good start.
Yeah, Mr. Blades, it's very refreshing to have something that the county council completely agrees on for anything, because it doesn't happen too often. And so it is really nice that we have strong bipartisan consensus and support of your nomination to be our permanent director for budget and finance. Maybe the easiest vote in the last 12 months, which is really, really nice. Thank you.
I'm opposed.
Yeah, whatever. And thank you for your great counsel, sitting in the bond rating meetings together and really carrying a lot of the heavy lifting for the county in a very kind of transitory time. And so having that stability and your wisdom and your extreme number crunching, which is really cool, we do appreciate it. So anybody else before we adjourn for the day? Councilman Jones. And the closer coming in, Councilman Jones.
I am not going to do or say what I thought. I guess practice of restraint amongst myself. I guess we'll let y'all know that. No, it's good that you're going to be the permanent director. I know you have a very long, extensive career here in budget and finance. I think you've been a deputy since 2007?
2012, I believe.
2012?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe I was thinking 7 years.
Yeah.
Shall I can fix it. Okay, but the other thing I wanted to say was I wanted to tell my colleague that I've known you since 1812. I guess what a one-up 'em. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Blades. I used to have hair.
Councilman Patoka, we're
Just
still
one
going.
final comment, one up, Councilman Jones, is, do you know, Ed, I don't want to make you feel old, but you and I have been working together since before my senior legislative aide, Justin Silberman, was born.
Oh, there you go.
Closer.
Anyone else?
No, I'd just like to point out, years and years ago, that Councilman Patoka and I played softball together, and if you've ever seen him pitch, if you haven't, you need to, because it is something to behold.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
All right. Is there anything else before we adjourn this work session? We got everything covered? All right. Work session's adjourned. Everybody have a safe drive home. Thank you very much.